Good evening, hello and welcome to this edition of the Startup Central. I'm Nayantara Rai, working from home. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated, of course, to startups, innovation, technology, disruption, entrepreneurship. Basically, if it falls under the gambit of the new economy, it's here every weekday at 6 p.m. on your favorite channel, ET Now. Social commerce is currently being pegged at a GMV of $1.5 billion, according to Bain Capital, which can grow to nearly $20 billion in about 5 years from now. We've been hearing a lot about social commerce. We've seen large investors make a big play at it, mushrooming of startups. In fact, today our guest is also a Sunicorn, Meesho, which is pioneering social commerce in the country and doing it with women empowerment. It's also the first startup that Facebook invested in India. And also joining me is a managing director at Sequoia Capital, Mohit Bhatnagar. So Vidit Atre and Mohit, thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Startup Central. Wish you both a happy new year. You know, this is an interview we planned in the last week of December. It's a coincidence that we're talking about social commerce when social platforms are in the news for very, very different reasons and to do with privacy. I'll get to that in just a bit. Vidit, let me come to you first. You know, like I said, you pioneered social commerce in the country. You've done it with also this message of women empowerment. You literally, you know, tasted failure. From there, you came out with this story of success, which is Meesho. Do you think social commerce is the way to go? Can social commerce topple e-commerce?
Yeah, Nayantara, first of all, thanks for having us on your show today, and a very happy new year to you and everyone at ET Now. So I think let me kind of take a step back and even explain to people why social commerce in the country is not so new. So if you look at it, almost all small businesses, be it like the offline ladies boutique you saw around or the Kirana store, all like these community stores where people buy from the store in your own community, or you buy from that ladies boutique which exists in your own apartment or society, which was essentially social commerce. Like people are tapping their social network, seeing what people are selling and buying from them. What we have done is we have created a platform for all of this to move online. So now our women entrepreneurs can come online, start their own online shop in fashion and lifestyle, and do so without putting a single rupee of investment, which is the biggest barrier that they had offline, right? So if you look at it, what we have done is we have taken a very traditional offline commerce format and digitized it to a big extent. And now we have very close to 10 million women entrepreneurs who do this across the country. And they essentially sell in their own community, their friends, family, neighbors on day one, and keep expanding their business. So I believe social commerce is always a very, very integral part of commerce in India already. And we will start to see more and more of such formats. We are also, for example, trying other new categories to come into the social commerce fold. Can you sell can you figure out a way to start your social store selling categories in grocery? Can you start your social store selling categories in non-fashion lifestyle? Like all of these things are happening, and I'm sure all of these formats will eventually move online. But this is nothing new. Like all of this was already happening offline.
So Mohit, going by what Vidit is saying, is just about the pie getting larger, the market expanding, or more sellers coming online, more people also becoming more comfortable shopping with social commerce. So if this is indeed the way to go, the point is, as an investor, what do you look at? Do you look at e-commerce? Do you look at social commerce? What do you tell the young founders out there? Is the future that you've got to have a hybrid model of both?
So Nayantara, taking a step back, India in 2020 had about 570 million people who were online. And about 100 million of those were shopping online and buying products. So the real opportunity that social commerce is going after, the gap it's filling, if you will, and the opportunity for young founders to go out there and exploit, is that there are over 400 million Indians who are online, spending close to 4 to 5 hours a day, spending time on chat groups, on social platforms, but they're not buying. And that is the real opportunity that something like social commerce can step in and say, what are the core 1 or 2 reasons that you are still not transacting online? How do I help bridge the trust deficit that you currently have before putting your credit card online, or ensuring that you have a feeling of, I will get the right product of the right quality delivered in a fair period of time to my house. So how do you sort of build trust with this 400 million plus base that is online on social platforms, but not transacting online? We see that as a huge opportunity. And look, social commerce, as Vidit says, has already started. We have close to about a 2 billion or so worth of products being sold through these social channels today, through companies like Meesho and others. We expect as investors for that to almost 10x in the next 5 years. So very optimistic on what this space can become in a short period of time.
Vidit, Meesho is the first startup that Facebook invested in India. The last couple of days, you've seen Facebook and WhatsApp being in the news for very different kind of reasons. It's to do with the take it or leave it WhatsApp privacy norms that are going to kick in from 8th of February. You've seen a surge in traffic on another rival platform, which is, of course, Signal. Can I ask you that, is this something that we all are just talking about migrating our groups, but is it hurting business on ground? You're one of the best people to check this with. Your business model relies a lot on WhatsApp. That's how a lot of the women entrepreneurs on Meesho sell. You've got 10 million sellers, you said. Have the last couple of days impacted business?
Yep. A very simple answer is, so far the answer is no. We haven't seen, at least in our user base, people moving from WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, the three most popular platforms that they use to run their social stores and sell to consumers. We haven't seen any movement. But I think even to explain that point, people leverage platforms where the community networks exist. So today that exists on WhatsApp, it exists on Facebook, and it exists on Instagram. We see in some cases it even exists on Telegram, and we see people who are our users even use Telegram, even though that number is small. So tomorrow, if some new platform comes up where people are creating groups, speaking to them, interacting with them, I'm 110% sure that some of the social commerce activity will move there. So it's not WhatsApp commerce, not Facebook commerce, it's social commerce. Whatever social network is active that people are spending time on, you'll find both these sellers, these women entrepreneurs, as well as their network move to that particular platform, and the same activity will start. So I don't think any of this is going to impact this behavior anyways. But again, as I said, so far we haven't seen any impact. We haven't seen people talking about it. So we are yet to see what kind of movement of some of these platforms will happen maybe in the next couple of months.
When you started seeing a small number move to Telegram, Signal right now doesn't have a shopping tab. Incidentally, we at ET Now did interview the Signal co-founder Brian Acton 24 hours ago, and he did say right now no shopping tag or commerce focus. It's going to be on organic traction for the instant messaging service. So with it, are you saying that the small number that you're seeing on Telegram, Meesho, and other startups like Meesho are responding, looking at other platforms, even though you're not seeing any significant behavioral change so far?
That movement to Telegram did not happen like yesterday or last week. I was talking about, even for the past couple of years, a very small percentage of people in India use Telegram. So that activity is still happening there. And there's no shopping tab even on WhatsApp. And it did not exist 1 year ago, it did not exist 2 years ago. So it hasn't impacted us at all. So I don't think these platforms providing a shopping tab or providing anything in terms of enablement of commerce impacts us in any way. These are social groups where people invite their friends, family, and neighbors and make this activity happen. That can happen on any platform, any social network that people are using. So I'll come back to that point. Signal providing any shopping tab, not providing any shopping tab, or any other platform does not matter, because this activity is happening in groups where people interact with their friends, and in between they start to recommend products across categories that they like, and other people take their recommendations and buy. So in short, I don't think this is going to have any impact irrespective of what these platforms provide to support commerce.
Nentara, if I can add to that, the only constant in our world is change, and you can almost assume that the platforms of today will need to adopt, evolve, and maybe even get disrupted by others who embrace things like video and augmented reality to sort of build these communities that Vidit is referring to. So as people evolve and the market forces do what they do, it is very likely that there'll be a different set of names 5 or 10 years later that consumers are hanging out on and chatting and spending a lot of time with each other on. And I think the point that I'd like to reiterate that Vidit is making is it could be 1, 2, or 3, or it could be 30 platforms of the future, but commerce on those platforms is what the real opportunity is for entrepreneurs and founders like Vidit.
Absolutely. And Mohit, then coming back to the point you were making, whether it is e-commerce, social commerce, or even brick and mortar stores, everybody's selling to the same consumer base, right? Which has the purchasing power. You bring up this point how people are online, but they're not shopping. So how can social commerce therefore grow? And isn't discoverability in that sense a big challenge? You always have to be in the same groups. Or the other point is that, it's the fear of being spammed or actually spamming people to make that sale. Mohit.
Yeah, it's a great point. And let me point out to 3 specific opportunities that I think young founders can latch onto to really ride this wave. The first one is there are a number of first-time sellers coming online, folks who are doing this offline, influencers that did not exist but now exist going forward, who want to build their livelihoods online. So the set of tools and utilities that these first-time online sellers need. Think things like digital storefronts, order management systems, catalog management systems, chatbots in order for them to service their own consumers. These are great opportunities where companies and startups will be able to provide these tools and utilities for first-time sellers online that will sort of make these people a whole lot more effective, and rather than think of them as spam, make them a lot more personalized in how they actually sell their wares online. The second is, today, perhaps the set of categories that are available on social commerce are some of the lower ticket size categories. It's easier to buy them online from a friend or an influencer. But think of high value items like jewelry or even real estate or even automobiles. You will have to really bridge the trust with somebody that online in order for you to make these high value purchases. So huge opportunity and a completely different experience. Perhaps the use of video, perhaps the use of a much longer sales cycle would be the way you would sort of open up, higher value categories to come alive. And again, an unsolved problem for many entrepreneurs to go after. And then there'll be adjacent opportunities like logistics. In order for us to really deliver to over 500 million people in India and more in the smallest of pin codes, the entire logistics network would need to be rethought and reimagined. Hyperlocal deliveries, how do you really eke out every bit of cost and build in efficiencies so you can actually provide products to the smallest and the most far-flung places of India? So there are a tremendous amount of opportunities that young founders can go to ride this wave of social commerce as it becomes a $20 billion opportunity in the next 5 years.
A $20 billion opportunity in the next 5 years, and some fantastic ideas being provided by the managing director of Sequoia Capital. Vidit, you're in the business. Are you experimenting with a couple of things that maybe Mohit has talked about?
Yeah, and let me also tell you, where do we think this 20 billion the next 5 years is going to come from, right? And it's on multiple fronts. But if I just say 3 broad buckets. One is, if you look at it, even though we have 10 million women doing this today, the penetration on an overall scale size is still very, very small, right? The number of people who are online today who use WhatsApp, as people say, is about 400, 450 million, maybe close to 500. That number is going to become very close to double in the next 5 to 7 years. So there's a large percentage of people of the country going to come online. We just have 10 million people who are engaged in social commerce today. And if you look at active, that number can easily go like 10, 15x. So the large opportunity just around giving this opportunity to more and more people in the deeper parts of the country. The second is, as Mohit was talking about, this categories. Like, so most of what we saw so far was around fashion. But what we are seeing even now, and we are kind of focused also as well, is a lot of non-fashion categories are growing much faster. And these are even smaller AOV categories like beauty. It includes kitchen, home, And some of these categories expanding as people are buying them more and more. And some of the categories beyond that as well, which is a large part of a GDP, which is like, for example, grocery. And grocery includes both perishable, non-perishable. A lot of these categories are now going online as more kinds of small business want to come online. So I believe there's one large opportunity that is going to come around categories, and more categories start to become relevant on social platforms. There's a large opportunity for these entrepreneurs to grow their income multifold by latching onto them. And the third thing is around creating different, like, innovative forms of engagement. So we already, by the way, like, started to work on video over the last 12 months, and we saw engagement go up. People were creating a lot of video content, displaying a product in different ways, and people loved it. Like, consumers started to buy more and more. We believe this year is the time when some of the live video formats start to do well as well. We are piloting some of them in our business right now. We are trying to figure out how can we unleash other forms of creativity of some of these entrepreneurs so that they can engage their user base a bit more. Last year, by the way, we created one product which essentially let our women entrepreneurs create better looking catalogs from the catalog that we gave them. So they could put nice looking frames around it, they could create collages, and we suddenly saw engagement go up in some of these formats. So there's a lot of opportunity around innovating around some of the engagement formats. So it could be AR, VR, I don't know when that will come, but that could be one option as well. So I would say these are three big buckets where a lot of growth will come in the next 5 years, and the number of permutations and opportunities are endless.
Clearly the opportunities are immense, but there are some things because of experience that are very different. Mohit, for example, it is in the Indian DNA, right? You want to negotiate. Yes, the current audience has gotten used to not negotiating, but that's a big thing that founders need to overcome, because that is the common pattern and behavior, right? The other point is lack of trust. Yes, I understand COVID has accelerated digitization, but isn't that something else that social commerce needs to overcome? Because for a lot of people, at the same time, you're having campaigns saying don't believe everything you read on WhatsApp, be careful, scrutinize everything. And at the same time, you want to say also you must trust your seller, this product is authentic, all of that.
No, it's a great point to bring up, Nayantara. I think the single biggest opportunity for social commerce is to actually bridge this trust. But the single biggest danger is that if it sort of lets its consumers and its sellers down on this aspect of trust, it will not succeed. So trust is everything in this business. Now, one of the reasons we feel like social commerce will actually, solve the problem of trust is that think of a social commerce micro entrepreneur who's in between the small seller in Gujarat to a buyer in Northeast, is that you have this assisted sale model. Think of your last experience when you went offline and you had a shopkeeper who sort of showed you various selection and sort of a personalized number of choices to allow you to sort of make up your mind, helped you understand that the fabric might shrink, and so the size you might buy would be this one versus the other one, and sort of gave you enough feedback to make that an engaging customer buying experience. In many ways, social commerce allows you to do that. Rather than a very dry experience of somebody clicking on a site and finding a picture that they decide to either add to a cart or not, you have this human being in between, which you can iteratively question, talk, ask questions of, wait, get feedback, get advice, and then make a purchase. So that is the opportunity that social commerce presents itself with, where you can actually have a housewife who actually is a specialist, an expert, if you will, in allowing you to buy either cosmetic jewelry or housewares or the latest kurti fashion of 2021. That person can actually help you make a better decision in your buying purchasing behavior.
So with this, from a consumer's perspective, I want to ask you that aren't the lines also getting blurred between social commerce and direct to consumer? For example, I'm Nayantara Rai. Now, how does it matter whether I buy on WhatsApp or Instagram? I'm engaging directly with the seller. I'm in many cases engaging directly with the brand. I want my artisanal coffee to taste like this, or I want to get tiffin boxes which could be of a certain size. My point is that aren't the lines getting blurred?
Yeah, I think these lines mentally is what we have created. Like, we started to name this social commerce, but you're essentially engaging. Even in marketplaces, you engage with a seller as such. Even here, you're engaging with a seller. It just the experience is much more social. So I would say even when you're buying from a brand on Instagram, it's essentially social commerce because you discovered this through some social connection. You can comment there, you can engage with that particular seller. As Mohit was talking about, there's a feedback loop built in, which gives you a lot of comfort, builds trust, makes you get a very personalized experience. And that's what people love a lot in categories where you really want that experience, where you need some help in deciding what to buy. There are millions of products out there in categories such as fashion. You need someone to help you out to choose that perfect dress or perfect sari that really works well for you. And that's what some of these guys do. So to me, like, all of this engaging commerce where it's just not you go see a listing and check out and get done with it, which is a very mundane way of making a transaction, where it is a lot more engaging, where you can interact with someone, get feedback. You have much more engaging formats of discovering the product, is what social commerce is. Now you can call it direct, non-direct. I think it's for us to kind of give a nomenclature. But I feel almost all of e-commerce is going to become more and more engaging in the next 5 years, right? Like people are done with go search something in the text box, see a million things, buy something from there, will become dated. I don't think that's how people want to buy things. For people, shopping is a leisure experience. They enjoy it. So the experience has to be built in. And the opportunity of building those experiences on social platforms is generally much higher. And that's why we're seeing so much of innovation. And we'll continue to see that. So I don't think we will have two different names to some of this commerce 5 years from now, even though we have it today.
So Mohit, I'll give you the final question for this. And I tried to ask you this earlier. You did say it, but I'm going to just ask you point blank now. Platforms don't matter, like you said. So it doesn't matter whether it's a WhatsApp or it's a Signal or it's an Instagram or whatever it is, right? And with it said, these are all names that we are giving for ourselves. So for the founders who are starting out, what should they do? Everyone's not going to scale up like Meesho or have the ability to scale up like Meesho, or the market may not exist also. So what should they do? Should they look at just instant messaging service, but then if they don't have a social media presence, they feel they're being left out, or from a consumer's point of view, that trust factor is not there if there's a website also that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I think, Nentra, it's actually reasonably simple. It's all about, customer. And as a young founder starting up, you want to basically provide a new product or service that doesn't exist in the market today, that provides this hugely differentiated service for this customer. And if the customer sort of comes back and repeats buys from you, then you know that they're actually enjoying the experience. And if he really loves the experience, then he or she will go out and tell a few people, and word of mouth will spread. And that's when the organic growth begins to grow. So the metrics for a young founder are actually quite simple. They're not linked to any one particular platform. They're really linked to your product or service, which could be based on the category that you're providing, that is the types of goods, the price points you're doing it, and how you're actually helping the actual simplified shopping journey come alive for this customer. Today, it's being done, perhaps on social media around, text format, chat groups, and so on and so forth. And in the future, it could be happening in some sort of video and augmented reality way. And then there'll be many experiences in between. So that is what the founder should really focus on, to make sure that consumers love the buying experience from this new platform that they've created, and they vote with repeat purchases, and they help with the word of mouth spreading of the message. Those are the only things that matter.
Exists in creating a complementary logistics chain, Mohit, because everything we can't page, everything we can't send by VFast. If you want to be in every pin code in the country as well, do we have that in place, a supporting supply chain for what we're going to be calling a burgeoning social commerce ecosystem?
Yeah, like we said earlier, I think that's another adjacent opportunity. As the ticket sizes or the cart sizes reduce in some of these different categories, it's even more important that the logistics infrastructure gets more streamlined, gets more efficient. There are innovations being put into the marketplace right now that perhaps you ship your products to an aggregated buyer who then distributes it in the last mile, for example. That could be one way that social commerce comes alive at the lowest price points, and we've seen experiments around that in the grocery category that Vidit was talking about earlier. So there are multiple opportunities to really tap into the hyper-local last mile logistics networks that exist in this country today, have always existed, and now need to sort of embrace the online journey as part of what they do.
Vidit, Mohit, thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Startup Central. It's been great having both of you. Here's wishing the entire team at Sequoia and Misho a very happy new year.